everybody, welcome to Some of Farms, where we do a some of this and a some of that. I'm Heather, and today, guess what we're talking about? Is it bunnies? No, it's not bunnies. Is it guinea hens? No, it's not guinea hens, but we're close. That's right, today we're talking about chickens, and specifically what we're going to feed them in the winter. So one of my goals this year for the farm has been to research and try to figure out how I'm going to feed these animals for free, or at least, maybe not free, but to little to no cost. So in the, spring, summer, even fall, I get that. I'm not even really gonna go into that because it's pretty obvious if you free range, birds can find all kinds of stuff when they're foraging. I'm not going to go into that just yet. First, I wanted to look into what to do in the wintertime because that is where I was really stuck. Here in Maine, we have feet and feet of snow that, we get during the winter. So how are they going to find bugs and grasses and all kinds of stuff like that? So obviously in the winter, I know that I'm going to have to supplement their feed. But with everything going on in the grain shortage and everything shortage, and the prices going through the roof, how am I going to do this? Now, obviously, the first thing I'll tell you is I do not keep any livestock over winter unless they are a layer or they are a breeder. So if they're one of those two things, I have to feed them through winter. So there is less that I am feeding, less animals that I'm feeding. But nonetheless, I'm still going to need to figure out how I'm going to feed them for, we'll say, little cost, at least during the winter. So I searched high and low. I looked all over YouTube. I looked all over the search engines and the internet. I've looked in books. I've looked all kinds of places. I've asked around. I've asked in Facebook groups. And I really couldn't come up with too much other than, people will feed them scraps and stuff. Well, of course, yeah, I'm doing that, all year round anyways. But scraps from your kitchen, and even if you pick up stuff from like leftover stuff from a restaurant or grocery store or food pantry or whatever, that's not enough to sustain them through the winter. And definitely with the cold and everything, they need an increased amount of protein and everything. So that's not enough. So I know that as hard as it is to believe, chickens were not always domesticated. At one point they ran wild or they were more wild. So they had to go through winter. So what did they eat? So thus started my search for how chickens became domesticated. And I will warn you that pretty much from here on out, what I say is very controversial. And one of the big controversial things is it is possible, but again, controversial, that the first domesticated chicken was in, I'm going to screw this name up, so forgive the pronunciation, but Shishan, Cishan, which is in northern China. And that was way back in 5400 BCE. So BCE. So, these guys are a long time. So now that we've domesticated them, though, however, we lose a lot of that wild instinct, which, is the positive and negative right there. So now that they've been so domesticated, they are less active, they're less aggressive to possible predators, they're less social with, other chickens, they're, less susceptible to stress, they're less looking for foreign food sources, which is not, that's a big bummer. And now they also have an increased body weight and simplified plumage. Egg production starts earlier and it's more frequent and with larger eggs. Of course, that's what humans wanted. So, you gotta, get what you get. So, again, being controversial, it appears that even though we got those larger eggs and bigger bodies and everything, they were first domesticated not for actual eating, but for cockfighting. And this is according to anthropologists who have discovered that, they were domesticated for cockfighting for a religious ritual usually between two villages, two groups, two clans, whatever, for, again, religious rituals. So, with that, the chicken's diet pretty much consists of, insects, tender grasses, weeds, worms, snails, slugs, mice, which is really cool. I have seen my chickens get a hold of a mice, and that is really fun to watch if you have never seen that. My rooster that caught it was mighty proud of himself. Um, they also eat lizards, frogs, veggies, fruits, and pretty much just about anything and everything that they find. So that's all stuff that, can be foraged. Now, again, in Maine, when we're covered in snow, all of that stuff, yeah, pretty much for the most part, all of that stuff, they are not going to be able to find. So I need to provide that for them. So one of the ways that I can do that is obviously grow more and, preserve it for them. However, I'm only on an acre, a little under an acre and a half. So with everything that I need to grow and store for overwinter for me and my family, I am very limited on room, and therefore I cannot grow enough. At least I don't think I can, for my family and my livestock. So some things I'm going to need to purchase. So I did find a few different recipes for chicken feed, and it's all going to pretty much depend on what I can find at the time, but this one was the most simplest recipe. So let's take a look at making this. So it calls for 10 cups of pearl barley, which is for energy. I actually thought I had pearl barley, and I don't. So that is something that I would need to get. It also calls for 5 cups of hard red wheat. So this is actually what I use for cooking, not what I use for animal feed and everything. But I have wheat berries here. That's what they look like. And that's another thing that there's a bajillion uses for. So stock up on your wheat berries, because you don't only just ground them down for flour. You can use them for so many different things, including soaking them and cooking them and eating them just pretty much like that. Pearled barley and the wheat berries are in the feed for energy. The next thing on the recipe list is 5 cups of whole millet for amino acids. I actually thought I had millet because I used to be vegan a long time ago, and I had all this kinds of stuff. I only have millet flour apparently, so millet is another thing that I'm going to have to get. Easy enough to find. Next is 4 cups of oat groats. I don't have oat groats, but I actually have buckwheat groats, which again, I mean, you use what you got. The groats are for vitamin B, calcium, fiber, and of course energy too. Another thing that I found that was kind of interesting and a little good to know is split peas. I don't think it matters if they're yellow or green or whatever, but split peas you can use as protein, of course. We use it for protein in our diet, so of course they can use it for protein too. And it's, you can feed this raw. I know the dried beans, you don't want to feed your chickens dried beans. You don't want to feed your chickens dried beans because of the toxicity and everything like that. You can soak them and cook them and feed them to them that way. They can definitely eat the cooked beans, but um, split peas, you can go ahead and do it. And it's actually something that you can grow yourself and make yourself. Now, it's a little bit more than just harvesting the pea. In order to make split peas, it comes from the garden pea, which I'm going to butcher this name. Basum adavum. I'll leave it. I'll leave it right here for you guys. However you pronounce that. It's made from that, and what you need to do is when they're ready, instead of just harvesting them, you're going to need to peel the peas and cut them in half. Of course, that's what makes them the split pea. And then you dry them out and you can use them. So, could I make enough for the whole winter for all my chickens? Probably not, because I'm growing a bunch of other stuff that I need to harvest and save for me and my family to have to get us over the winter months. But it's definitely something that I can, have extra of, grow extra of, and harvest it and, dry it out like this so that I can have it in, the case of shortages. And oh my gosh, how are my chickens going to eat when there's, 10 feet of snow on the ground? So in addition to what I just said, the 10 cups of pearl barley, the 5 cups of red hard wheat, the 5 cups of whole millet, the 4 cups of oat groats, and the 5 cups of split peas. You can do different additives. Now, I am going to warn you that a lot of this is very controversial. So, do your own research and come to your own conclusions. But some of the atoms are diatomaceous earth, or DE. Make sure that it is food grade, and this helps keep bugs out and everything like that. I actually sprinkle this in their coop to help with mites and bugs and fleas and whatever bug stuff. There's a bajillion uses for this stuff on the homestead. So one of those, or a couple of those ways, are actually putting it in the animal feed and mixing it in with their bedding. It is a very fine powder, so when you do use this stuff, be careful you don't breathe it in because it can irritate your lungs. Garlic powder, which I will warn you that one of the things that they say, the reason why not to feed your chicken garlic powder is because that it can ruin the taste of the eggs. I guess it gives it a funny flavor, supposedly. And too much of it is toxic to the bird. So, like I said, do your own research, come to your own conclusion, do what you want. That's just something that I found out, through my own research. I don't know if I'll try it. Maybe a little smidge here and there just to see. But it is cool because obviously I got this from Walmart, but you can make your own garlic powder. There's plenty of videos and stuff how to do it. It's really simple. Just, dry out your garlic and powder it up. That's it. So it's simple. Again, this is something that you can grow extra of and have plenty enough for your family and your animals should you choose to feed it. I mean, you can even sprinkle it in dog food, cat food, and it's supposed to help keep the fleas and ticks away. So again, do your own research, come to your own conclusions, but that is something, and again, something that I can take control back and grow my own and have it if I should need it. The reason why they put garlic powder in there is because it is a dewormer. Some of the other things that you can use for a dewormer is zucchini. And I know Rain Country has a video that she did a long time ago on powdered zucchini. So I think if I was going to use it for chicken feed, I would powder it like she does in the video. I'm not sure if she does say how you can use it in different foods and stuff like that. I'm not sure if she says chicken feed. But it is a natural dewormer, so you can totally throw it in chicken feed. And Also, pumpkin, more specifically, the pumpkin seeds is also a dewormer. And there's some other stuff out there too that can be a dewormer, and I mean, not just for your chickens, but for a lot of the livestock that you have. You just, again, do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and with any kind of dewormer, whether it's natural or even the stuff that you can buy over the counter or get from your vet, you're going to want to switch it up because you don't want the worms to become resistant to it. So that's why I probably would try it, just as something different. The other thing you can add too is a 1/4 cup of kelp, which helps with the vitamins, amino acids, minerals, salts, and also promotes laying. Actually, I did a little clip here. It's called coop kelp. I give it to the chicks, and I give it to my guys in the winter, the adults, just to help with egg production. But I think I'm going to try actual powdered kelp from now on and see how that goes, because I think that'll be a little bit cheaper too. And something else that you can also add is homemade milk kefir. And obviously you can use fodder and stuff in the winter. And again, fodder is excellent, not just for your chickens, but your rabbits and everything. Probably almost all your livestock. Can't really think of something that wouldn't be good with fodder. And again, the milk kefir and the fodder or sprouted wheat is great source of protein for them. The other thing you can add into is oats. This is something that may become a shortage of. I've stocked up because I also give this to the rabbits to promote lactation. Some other stuff that you can add in is sunflower seeds for fats, oils, protein. You can set up a mealworm breedery. You don't have to buy a fancy tote. You can just get a regular tote. Just make sure there's some holes in it. They have like cricket water, but I don't even think you need that. Some just say as long as you have some like raw potato or carrots in there, they can get the water from that. And then you can get your own. Oops, there he goes. You can get your own little live worms. Not very wiggly. There he goes. And you can just keep them in sawdust or oatmeal even. I think they even eat the oatmeal. And then as they breed, you want to separate the larvae and all that, which I have not been great at. Here's some more live guys here. So you can feed them live. This is such a great source of protein for them. And once your guys are a week old, you can even feed it to them. As long as you're giving your chicks grit, you can feed them this at like a week old. Hello, you got a nice juicy worming here. Yum, 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 yum. That was good, huh? You can even buy dried mealworms. This is mealworm and shrimp. Feed them dried mealworm. Sorry, I thought I had a light on this camera too. So we eat a ton of bananas, and bananas can definitely be added in for potassium for your chickens. However, I want to get the most out of everything that I possibly can. So what I've been doing is I will cut up the banana peel and put it in a jar. I'm
only doing houseplants right now because I still it's still cold here in Maine, so we don't have plants outside in the garden. So I'm hoping to do this bigger once I get plants out in the garden. But for now, this is just for houseplants. And I put it in a jar. I fill it up with water, and I wait at least 24 hours. And then I'm going to use this to water my plants with, and it'll add potassium back in the soil for my plants. So it looks disgusting, but the plants love it. So let's just give a little, oops, a little to this guy, a little to this guy. These are all my spider plant babies that I sell. They are available on Etsy. And when you're pouring, just be careful you don't get any of the little banana stuff out. I worry about it stinking. This is my newest plant, by the way, since we're over here at plants. It is a peppercorn plant, and I'm hoping I can get it to flourish, and it'll give me peppercorns, and then I won't have to worry about buying pepper from the store. Okay, so I finished watering all the plants, and I have this left over. Again, I'm not going to just toss it in my trash. Like, don't do that. And I'm actually not even going to put this in my compost, although you totally could, and add potassium back to your soil that way. I'm going to feed this to the chickens, and I find that they appreciate that all that banana peel, as gross as it looks, has been soaking, so it's softer and easier for them to peck. They approve. Another thing you can supplement with is these oyster shells. They're just crushed oyster shells. I'm sure if you live near a beach, you could probably go get your own oysters and crush them up and give it to them. Do your own research. I don't want to hear any horror stories. There's also limestone chips and stuff that you can get, and this just gives them the added extra calcium for harder shells.
Just a few other things that I wanted to mention that I don't show here. You can feed your chickens sunflower seeds for the fats, oil, and protein. You can also feed pet food like dog, cat food, which is high in fat. I have occasionally acquired some of this, and they will totally eat it. Bell peppers, so just the fruit only, not the whole plant. You can, again, grow extra and dry it out, preserve it, or even freeze it for them. You can feed them, of course, their own eggs. You want to make sure that you scramble this, though, or you're hard boiling it for, like, maybe your chicks, just to, make sure that they don't start eating their own eggs. I know I have that problem, and I don't know why it started, but it did, and, something that I want to keep dealing with. Also, there's green beans, which is a high source of nutrients, but make sure that you cook them, only cook green beans. Grapes are another one for extra vitamins. I just want to start growing grapes here, so hopefully I'll get some extra. Strawberries, which are high in vitamin C, B9, and antioxidants. There's blueberries, which is rich, in cancer-preventing nutrients. And again, we're getting all these nutrients that we give to them. So again, strawberries, blueberries, something that you can dry up and give to them. Bananas, we just saw. Meat and bone meal are another one for potassium, calcium, and obviously protein. A cooked rice is another one to add extra carbs. Cucumbers for vitamins, anti-inflammatory agents. Popcorn is my guys love popcorn. And of course, you can also feed bread. It's not very nutritious, but it is something that you can, as a filler, or a treat, give them bread. And the other insect on here that I do not grow, but you can grow yourself, is crickets. And then, of course, you can grow your own earthworms or even red wrigglers, and they can eat those as a source of protein as well.
So if you're just using the basic chicken feed recipe, um, please note that this makes about approximately a little under 14 pounds of chicken feed, which is at 16% protein. So again, this is your layer feed. So definitely don't have chicks over. I don't, do chicks over winter. So nobody's going to be on starter grower. So this is what I would want to do. And where I got this from says, according to the time when they put this all together, the cost per serving for 1 day for each chick was only 75 cents. I'm sure with inflation right now that's probably like quadrupled, but still nonetheless probably cheaper than your commercial chick feed. Okay, so I just threw together a little bit of what I had. This is not following the recipe. This is not exactly what it would look like. I just kind of threw some of that stuff together. So I'm not going to feed it as an actual feed, but just as a treat. So let's see how they like it. So they like it, but again, I mean, they would eat anything. If I died of a heart attack right now, they would eat me. So there's that. So I'll just feed this as a treat for now, just a supplement, but it's, it is mud season, so that's why you see the mud everywhere and why their eggs are gross right now. So once it warms up and dries out, it'll be a lot better. Alright, well, they're happy. Of course, you have your commercial feed. This is pelleted, layer feed. And when you have babies, you'll usually get a crumble, which looks like this. And this is that starter grower, commercial feed. So of course you can buy this stuff.
And that's pretty much all that you can feed for your guys in the winter. Again, if you don't want to use the ladder of that, definitely start now. I know it's just started spring and who wants to think about winter, but you definitely need to so that you have a plan on what to feed your guys for the winter. I'll see y'all next time. Thank you. Bye.